Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the 20-Minute Marketing Podcast. My name is Liam from Reach Interactive and I hope you're having a great day. I'm excited to get started with today's episode and welcome our guest, John Voung from Local SEO Search. Hi John, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Liam. I'm excited to share some insights on SEO with your audience members.
Yeah, me too. Really looking forward to it. Before we get started, could you spend a minute introducing yourself and Local SEO Search, please?
Yeah, definitely. So I started this agency back in 2013. And since then, I've grown it to really focus on helping small, medium-sized businesses elevate their digital presence via search, in particular, search engine optimization, and really gear them to dominate their local space, where they're now known as an expert and authoritative figure in the online world. But prior to that, I pretty much started in directory search. So it was a fairly easy transition, but that's how I started. And I also have a podcast as well, where I'm helping a lot of small, medium-sized business owners educate them on really the foundational information that you need to get yourself going and started to be successful, because it is a long journey as opposed to a quick, easy way to scale and grow your business. There's a lot of trial and error and a lot of mistakes that every business owner, entrepreneur has to endure throughout this journey.
That was a great introduction. Thank you. And you're joining us from Canada, right?
That's correct. Toronto, Canada.
I'm glad you mentioned your podcast because I did make a note to bring that up. I saw that you have over 160 episodes, which is a lot more than us. So if anyone wants to listen to more of an SEO-focused podcast, then you can check that out by searching Local SEO today. In the meantime, thanks for listening and we'll get started with our chat. First of all, you mentioned that you specialize in SEO for small businesses, and that started with directories. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so my previous stint at working in my career was actually working at Yellow Pages. I was there for over 5 years. And over that period of time, I worked in the front line as a sales and marketing professional with over a couple thousand business owners. And at that time, and this was, I would say, a decade ago, Google was in their infancy where more and more people were consuming content through search results. And advertising in general, in terms of directory advertising and print and their digital presence, people were spending and consuming less of the search volume on Yellow Pages traditional media. And so what we discovered when I was there was a lot of negative connotation in terms of like Yellow Pages not providing a really good ROI as it used to be. So what is comparable is those people that kept advertising at Yellow Pages for 10, 20, 30 years, they weren't getting the same kind of return they were accustomed to getting. And they didn't know where people were consuming the business owners today, right? So at that time, a lot of people wanted to reduce their spend, really learn a little bit more about this digital Google presence, right? And wanted to move advertising dollars there. And that's how I came about starting this business, because I didn't really have a strong SEO background. All I knew was there was a demand and a need in place from small business owners. They wanted to move away from traditional because the ROI was lower, and they wanted to try something different because they knew something else was working and they wanted to see what that was. So I knew there was a lot of people interested, and that's how I started this agency. And then I had to figure out how to really get these business owners to rank. So that was the fun part, once I knew there was a business to be had.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's dive into SEO now then. As you mentioned, a lot of local business owners may not have the luxury of a marketing team that can work on SEO on a daily basis. So how can they invest their time efficiently when it comes to SEO?
Yeah, and that's the challenge, right? As a business owner, entrepreneur, or someone that's been running a business for years, decades, right? Their strength is really to take care and run a good functioning business, taking care of their customers, understanding their service product offering, know what their unique selling prop is, what differentiates themselves. So they're already busy with so many different facets, from marketing, advertising, sales, operations, to team lead, to hiring, firing, bookkeeping, all these other hats, right? And you bring on another aspect of marketing, which is SEO, a very technical term, it's very difficult for the average business owner to then consume a lot of their day and time to understand this. So I try to make it easy as an agency that specializes in SEO to make it so that all they have to do is focus on running their business very well. And with an SEO campaign, you actually can refine who your ideal customer is and try to get more of that through, portraying that on your website and digital presence. So if you really understand who your customers are and have a persona in play in terms of that ideal profile of that customer, you can then focus all your efforts on digitally to try to attract more of those type of clients. So before you do SEO, you need to really run a really good business and know who your ideal customers are.
I assume that one of the big benefits for local businesses is that since they know their customers and their niche, it's a lot easier when it comes to search intent and keyword research and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Because when you are frontline and you actually interact with your customers on a daily basis, you get to know them on a personal level, but you also then can refine your information online digitally to more long-tailed keywords, which are more easier to rank for, very specific niche down, long tail that actually provides a higher click-through rate and conversion rate. So all these things matter for small business owners. Don't go after very broad term keywords that are very highly competitive. High search volume, but high competition means very difficult for you to rank, right? So there's a fine line, but I will always say really focus, hyper focus if possible, hyper localize and dominate that local niche before you start expanding to different products and service offerings and regional area.
I'm glad you answered in that way because I was going to ask you whether it's worth going up against big competitors and national companies for the high volume keywords, or if it's better to localize and focus on long tail keywords that are easier to rank.
I always say as a small, medium-sized mom and pop operation, you have limited budget. These other national brands or larger retail outlets, they have in-house teams of SEO professionals, or they have big budgets to go with big ad agencies. Right? So what you want to do is have quick wins so that you see value to continue doing this for the long term. The challenge about SEO is people are so used to having quick results with ads, right? Ads have played a very different role in today's society because what you see is social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn or whatnot. And even like brochures, newspapers, you put it out there, but it's at one time you get immediate results based on if people actively are in seek of your product service at that given time or moment, right? But once it's gone, it's gone. It doesn't continue working for you. With SEO, it takes time to get there, but you get a long-term value out of it where you get repeated customers who are actively looking a lot longer. So the life cycle of that ad spend is longer. The quality of leads are better, but they need to be patient, right? Because it doesn't happen overnight. Google will only rank websites that position themselves as thought leaders, as authoritative figures in their niche, in their locale. So it does take time because you're competing with other competitors, right? Like in your own market. So if you haven't done SEO yourself or you haven't hired someone, start that earlier, because if you don't, it's going to take longer and longer as the years progress.
Do you have any tips for someone that might not have the budget for an agency or is trying to invest in their marketing in-house? For example, maybe they could start writing down queries and questions from customers and then use them as inspiration for future website pages or blog posts.
Yeah, so I always say if you're starting off in SEO, first you need to ensure that you run a really good, tight operation in terms of a business. You should know what your margins are, what are your key selling services and products, and what do you want to be known for in your industry or your market, right? Once you refine that and you understand who you want to be, then you can actively go after a strong SEO campaign where then you want to dominate, say, certain aspects of that product or service and really refine it so that whoever's looking online, you get a small piece of it, and all they care about, you want to position yourself is to be the expert for that given piece. and then expand slowly, right? So be a dominant player for one or two major product or services, and then expand to others so that you build more awareness. But people want to do everything right off the bat, right away, and expect miracles. I always say start small and grow slowly, because if you don't see value right away, you're going to get frustrated and you're going to give up on this campaign, right? But SEO is a long game. And just like a business, if you've been doing it for under 5 years, you know the struggles, right? And if you're past 1 year, you know the struggles. So don't give up. If this is meant to be and you are passionate and you have a really good foundation, good quality clients and good value prop, if you stick with it, things are very fruitful once you start ranking organically.
So I'm going to spend a few minutes focusing on website optimization, if that's all right. So can local businesses get away with just doing the basics, such as adding title tags, metas, H1s, etc.? Or do they need to be diving into technical issues too?
Yeah, so that's on-page SEO. Yes, it's important, and it gives Google some insight so that they can index your website, make it easy for them, Google, the crawlers, to detect what information is on that page. And what's more important is if you start to rank, you want to make it easy for the user to easily detect what information is on that website, because there are 10 plus listings on that first page of Google. So not only do you need to rank, you need to convert those people who are searching to click on your site. And what these on-page SEO, title tags, meta descriptions, alt image tag, H1s, H2s, schema markup and other things. There's a lot of plugins out there like the Yoast all-in-one, things that make it easy for you. It's good. It's a habit that you need to start implementing. Very similar to running a business that's off page, off digital, which is taking care of your customers, asking them the right questions, adding value, making sure that you follow up after a service call, right? Like all these things are foundational, and these are foundational today digitally. And so if you aren't doing it, you need to make a habit to start doing it.
And there are some great tools for things like on-page optimization. I think the best place to go, in my opinion, is probably the Beginner's Guide to SEO on Moz, which gives you a breakdown of all of those things that we've mentioned and what they are and why they're important. And of course, on-page optimization isn't the only thing that is required to rank well. Unfortunately, it just isn't that simple. So what are some of the other things that we need to consider if we want to rank well?
Yeah, definitely. So on-page is a small pillar, and that's only maybe 25% of the entire SEO aspects that Google's looking for. There's off page, which is building authority, right? How do you build authority? I always look back at traditional businesses. And because I did work at Yellow Pages, it's about how did those bricks and mortar business or service type businesses survive generationally, not just, in a couple of years, but decades, generations without the internet, right? Without technology. How did they survive? So it was all about taking care of your customers, have a real solid value prop, provide really good, excellent product services, understand your customers and take care of them, right? So then what's going to eventually happen is word of mouth, referrals, and you'll refine your vendors, get good quality product, whatever it is, right? Like run a really, really tight-knit business. That's the same thing that you really have to focus on digitally today. So the same thing is about making sure you have a really good in-house product line and services with a lot of your staff. So that's your on-page information, right? The other thing is once you provide that service, it's all about word of mouth and referral. So after the fact, how do you get other people to know about you? So then you have to get links digitally. What I mean by that is you need to let other people know that you are the expert. So what does that mean? Other people are talking about you, right? Or you contribute content to position yourself as the leading authoritative figure, right? Start doing a lot more giving away information, not just writing blogs on your own site, but other people's sites, right? And naturally, what's going to happen is other people will start talking about you organically. And if you get picked up, that's where things start rippling in terms of an effect, right? So then it comes to how do you get testimonials? It used to be references, right? But today it's all about third-party reviews. And people rely on these reviews more so than a word of mouth or a friend telling them, well, check this company out. They're going to fact check. They're going to Google in that brand name or company, and they're going to check out your Google reviews or third-party vendors, not on your own website, but other people. What has other people said? And people trust these reviews as authentic people writing them. So what you need to do is start focusing yourself on not just running a good business, because that will see, right? Like people can sniff out fake reviews and they will see right through you. So not making a habit to start asking for reviews for your own business digitally, but also respond to positive and negative reviews. So all these things are very functional and foundational in terms of a bricks and mortar before technology happened, to now transition to the same thing, run a really good business, and you'll start seeing an impact in how you start being portrayed digitally.
And there are some good tactics out there for guest posting and gaining authority that are both free and effective. Off the top of my head, the first is Harrow, Help a Reporter Out. You can sign up for free and then get a daily list of questions that reporters are looking for answers on. And the second one is more manual, but you can search relevant questions in your industry and try and find comparison sites and listicles and things like that, and then get in touch with the author and see if they'll consider adding your company or product to their list. And those are quite basic level tactics that established marketers will probably know about, but for someone just starting out, it's a great place to look.
Yeah, and it's like running a business, right? It's not easy. Everything is difficult, right? And Google is making it more and more difficult than ever. So all these things that you're really wanting to do, which is position yourself as that leading expert, authoritative figure, it's not an easy rodeo, right? Like you have to put in that time and effort to rank. But you need a solid foundation of understanding who you are as a business owner. And if this makes sense for you, and you plan on doing this for 3, 5, 10, 20 years, well, you better start sooner rather than later, because the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take for you to start ranking.
I'm glad you mentioned the Yoast plugin earlier too. Does it make things easier for small business owners to design their site using WordPress or Wix or GoDaddy, for example, instead of outsourcing?
Yeah, so I always say own your own website. There's a lot of themes and templates out there. WordPress by far is the most, common one. Once you own a site, Wix is a platform that has their own CMS, and you can easily update different products and services in those landing pages, right? Shopify, GoDaddy, all these have their own theme and templates. What you need to do as a business owner is to own your own website. What I mean by that is make sure you have full admin, master admin access, so that when you are no longer, wanting to use that site, you own it, right? So you can sell a piece of your asset. And that's very important, because when you have full ownership, you have a lot more flexibility to do full technical optimization, which a lot of these rented sites like Squarespace or Wix, you don't have full access, right? Because you're paying to rent that site. So my suggestion is always own as much as possible. And once you do have full ownership, then you have complete control, just like owning your own business, as opposed to renting your business.
And you mentioned technical optimization there. Is that something that small or local businesses should even be concerned with?
Yeah, so it all depends on your, what do you value in your business, right? Most people want to shrink their time, expedite it, and let other people who are specialists perform at their best abilities, right? That's why people have businesses in general, right? You're providing a product service that another person cannot do themselves. So you're offering it for a fee, and therefore there's a need for it. So just like SEO, you can definitely do everything self-taught. There's a lot of blogs, YouTube videos, a lot of resources out there. But what's your time worth, right? Versus an agency that has specialized in certain aspects, that has experience and have done a lot of testing through a lot of their own clients, right? So again, it's shrinking time, and what is it worth to you, right? And can it really provide a really good ROI for you? If you believe this is the right avenue for you, by far, I think SEO should be a focus for all small business owners and medium-sized business owners. The challenge is the timeline. People they have unrealistic expectations because they're so used to seeing something right away and paying for it, right? SEO, there's a lot unknown. So I always tell people, educate yourself enough so that you can ask the right questions when you're approaching different providers.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've covered a lot of information in this main section, so let's finish it right here. Thank you for providing us with some great insights, John. And if you stay with us for a few more minutes, we'll close out the episode with a few fun questions. So as always, we'll finish the episode with a couple of fun questions that are related to John's career and some advice that he can give. So first off, do you have a fun or memorable story that you could share with us from the start of your career?
One of the most memorable stories that I had was my first client actually was a pet groomer, someone that cuts hair for pets. And I approached them. I was a sales marketer myself. So I went in, I pitched them on my cell phone. So at that time, I didn't even have a laptop or tablet. I had my cell phone. And I basically let them know, like, look, you're spending money on these traditional media, and I'm not sure what the returns are, but do you use Google? Do you feel like a lot of your potential customers are searching and navigating for you? And what I can do is get you on that map, get you on that first page. And right there, I was able to collect my first client that paid me upfront 6 months without even having any proof, social proof. But what they actually believed in was my desire to really want to help them, right? And that is actually a little bit more different than having proof. Like right now, I have a lot more social proof, but early days, it was all about my stories, right? And depending on where you're at in terms of your journey, and it could be early stages or more seasoned, but you have an opportunity that's unique and you just have to use that ability to get more clients. And you're basically the salesperson, right? And if you're not doing it well, no one else can sell it better than yourself. You need to refine your art as a salesperson. And that's how I started this company. Like I was out there just hustling and grinding out, bootstrapping without even a laptop and not knowing how to even do SEO. But I was really about just helping real business owners.
Yeah, and it's cool that you went in there with just your phone and really focused on, how the prospective client could benefit from investing in SEO.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I still enjoy the sales aspect because that's my background, sales and marketing. So I still am a true believer. And I really am out to take care of my people, which is my staff and my client.
Absolutely. So we'll finish with one final question. Do you have any resources for small business owners or marketers that want to keep up with SEO or marketing trends?
Yeah, definitely. SEO it's always changing and there's a lot of thought leaders in the space. I always look at the industry people. You can follow sites like Moz or Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Land. I use a lot of the tools at Ahrefs, SEMrush, even Moz. There's a lot of keyword research tools. HubSpot also provides a lot of information, insights as well. Infusionsoft is another site that I always look at. Just understanding what SEO can provide you as a business owner. The challenge is don't get too, if you want to go deep, you definitely can. But I always say just scratch the surface so you know what is really going on because running a business is already difficult enough.
Yeah, that was a great answer. Thank you for being a great guest, John.
Awesome. Really appreciate it, Liam.
And if you enjoyed the episode, then I'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a review. You can also view more of John's work by listening to his podcast, Local SEO Today, or by sending him a connection request on LinkedIn, which I'm sure he'll be happy to accept. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.